call the meeting to order at 7:09 p.m. on April 13, 2020. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioners Gershenson,
Here.
Gingell,
Here.
Hoffman,
Here.
Jackson,
Here.
Ockendorfer,
Here.
Kowal,
Here.
Kuhn,
Here.
Long,
Here.
Lubes,
Here.
Markham,
Here.
McGilvray,
Here.
Middleton,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Powell,
Here.
Quarles,
Here.
Fizz,
Here.
Cobb,
Here.
Viper,
Here.
Woodward,
Here.
Zach.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
All right. Next up, I will recognize Commissioner Hoffman to give the invocation after this week of holidays. Commissioner Hoffman, please give the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Chairman Woodward. Most merciful God, we come to you in our weakness. We come to you in our fear. We come to you with trust, for you alone are our hope. We place before you the disease present in our world. We turn to you in our time of need. Bring wisdom to doctors, give understanding to scientists, endow caregivers with compassion and generosity. Bring healing to those who are ill, protect those who are most at risk, give comfort to those who have lost a loved one. Welcome those who have died into your eternal home. Stabilize our communities, unite us in our compassion, remove all fear from our hearts. Fill us with confidence in your care. Dear Lord, unite our hearts and minds so as to empower us to pursue in unity a common purpose to eradicate the curse that this pandemic has befallen upon our people. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Stands one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank
That
you.
will move us. Thank you again. That will move us to approval of the minutes from the March 31st meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Commissioner McGilvray, seconded by Commissioner Jackson. Any discussion? Commissioner Tom?
It's not discussion on the minutes, Mr. Chair. However, I cannot see all of the commissioners. I can see other people,
If you,
but I
okay,
can't
if you
see all of us.
So if you
So
scroll, if you click on the view screen at the top, so there's a view, it says view at the very top center,
Right in the middle on top.
right in the middle, click down, it's a menu, and then then select view active cameras.
Perfect, thank you.
Got it, okay. Discussion on the minutes. Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the minutes are approved unanimously. Moves on to approval of the agenda. Agenda moved by Commissioner McGilvray, seconded by Commissioner Long. Any discussion on the agenda? Commissioner Tom?
Am I on? Whoop, I got it.
Yep, you're on.
Okay. The first item on the consent agenda is A, County Executive Community Census Support Funding Grant Acceptance Management and Budget 2020 Equalization Report. My question is this, I think it's $250,000 if I'm not mistaken.
Wait, so
And-
two things. That's two things. Is the County Executive Community Census Support Grant, that's what you're, item A?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
My question is this, we as a board expended some funds for staff and other things for the census. Will this go to repay some of the funding that we've already expended? Appropriately.
Can we take that up when we get to the consent agenda? We're just approving the agenda right now.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The agenda is adopted unanimously. That brings us to communications. Madam Clerk, do we have any communications?
I have one to read in tonight, Mr. Chair. Stated today, as you are aware, demand for personal protective equipment, PPE, is exceedingly high at present. The Emergency Operations Center, EOC, is the central point of contact for PPE requests from first responders, county departments, hospitals, and other medical care facilities, etc. At present, all PPE is received in materials management and is then, with the help of the health department, distributed out on a prioritized critical need basis. To this point, storage space and materials management has sufficed. However, we now anticipate large orders and shipments to be arriving within the next 2 weeks, requiring far more storage space than can be efficiently accommodated by current county facilities. Thus, an effort was undertaken to locate a third-party warehouse. Thanks to the generosity of the Penske Automotive Group, a license agreement has been negotiated by Corporation Counsel Purchasing and Facilities Management for 2 storage facilities near campus at no cost to the county. The buildings will not be open to the general public and signage will be generic. The only people entering the properties will be county employees, first responders, and individuals delivering PPE. Thorough cleaning of the space will occur before any PPE enters the building. This memorandum is informational. The Board of Commissioners miscellaneous resolution extending the state of emergency provides the county executive and administration the authority to sign the license agreement. And that is from April Lynch, Deputy County Executive.
All right. Is there any questions about that? I think there was an email sent out to everybody, but making this space available, but all lease agreements require to come before the board. And so I asked the administration to give us communication because I don't think the details of the lease are ready. And by receiving this communication, basically given our consent, and we'll sign the lease per the powers of the emergency. Any questions? Okay. Is that the only communication, Madam Clerk? Okay, that's the only one. Is there a motion to receive and file the communication? Moved by Commissioner Hoffman, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Further discussion? All in favor of support receiving and filing the communication, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Is there a nay? Oh, okay. So then the communications received and filed unanimously. This moves us to the public comment portion of our. I'm getting some background. Okay. This moves us to our public comment portion of the agenda. We got Andrea, who is here. And so we've, for those who are viewing, we've invited people to send email comments in for public comment, or you can log in with the the information on the published agenda. And so I'll turn it over to our staff. Andrea, do we have any public comment that was emailed to us? You got to unmute.
My apologies. We have one email and we have 3 callers that are on the line currently. So we can open it up to the callers to speak for 3 minutes. There was one that mentioned they may want to speak. So I'll offer it up to the people that are on the line. Is there anyone that would like to speak in public comment?
Hey, this is Amanda Klein.
Thank you, Amanda. So we have Amanda Klein. If you'll just announce from what community you're from, and then you'll have the floor for 3 minutes.
Yeah, my name's Amanda Klein. I live in Hazel Park. I just wanted to jump on real quick and really thank those at the county level, especially in leadership. I just think the information sharing has been tremendous. I love the updates that I'm getting. I like to share all the information I'm getting. So just again, keep up the great work. Y'all are doing like a really good job. For my day job, I work for United Way for Southeastern Michigan. So I just also wanted to get on and plug 211 as a resource that hopefully you can share with your constituents as this, drags on much longer and folks are having issues paying utilities, rent, they have tax questions. Definitely use 211 as a resource and just hoping that you will share that information with your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Are there any other callers that would like to speak?
If you're on the line, unmute yourself and you'll be afforded the 3 minutes allowed under public comment to address the full board.
And all lines are unmuted, and there were 2 other callers that said they may not want to speak. So I do have one email.
Okay.
The email comes from Yolanda Smith-Charles. She writes, the county plays a major role in reducing the effects of COVID-19. What ways are commissioners keeping their constituents informed? That's the end of all the comments.
All right. Great. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for those who participated in public comment. Seeing no further public comment and no one on the line that wants to speak, we'll declare public comment closed. Thank you, Andrea, for helping facilitate our public comment portion of the meeting. This will bring the reports of standing committees, and the first thing we have is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Moved by Commissioner Coral, seconded by Commissioner Lubes. And I believe we had, we started a conversation here. I'll recognize Commissioner Taub to speak to item number A, the County Executive Community Census Support Funding Grant Acceptance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have expended funds for staff and other items in the Complete Count Committee, and I wondered whether this funding would help pay back the county for the monies we've already expended.
I don't know if there's anyone from the executive's office that's on here to speak to it. I think that the grant, as it was originally submitted, was for things that were not staff related. It was advertising, printing, IT operations, development, office supplies, special events, and other things like that. So the grant was not for staff reimbursement, but for a lot of the programmatic aspects. But if there's, I don't know if there's anyone from the administration that's on that'd like to speak to whether or not any of these dollars could be repurposed with the permission from the grantor, which I believe is the Michigan Municipal League.
Well, perhaps somebody, you can get the answer for us at another
Sure.
time.
But we can ask staff.
It would be very helpful, since we are spending a tremendous amount of money in the county, that these funds could be reimbursed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Taub. I guess the only thing I would also say that the whole COVID pandemic has made some traditional census outreach a lot more difficult. And so resources to make sure that we actively communicate. I think everyone's getting the emails from our staff about our progress rate by community, and really encourage those who haven't yet maybe to participate in some of the call to action to make certain that people during this month participate and be fully are counted. I know we all support that and want to commend the Complete Count Committee that's continuing to work on this in this remote way. But we'll get the answer to see, Mr. Ward, if you can make note and see if there is flexibility to repurpose that, any of these funds to reimburse staff costs.
We'll check into it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda? Commissioner Jackson. Oh. You gotta unmute yourself. Commissioner Jackson? can't hear you. Okay, all right. So we'll pass on that, but we need to activate your mic to make certain that that we can get your sound coming through. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Oh, Commissioner Wyford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did try to listen to the Emergency Operations Committee meeting, and the sound was in and out, but I did partially hear the report of our Dave Heber, person in charge of equalization, and he reported that the 2020 equalized value was a 5.84 increase, and the resulting taxable increase value is going to be 4.4 increase. And I know all those numbers were from following the March border reviews, and the numbers came from all the CVTs. I think that, was there any kind of a comment of whether this emergency is going to affect property values?
I mean, during that committee conversation, during the committee, and I invite anyone else on the committee to give that, give their take on the conversation, is that there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of concern about what this means for the slowdown in the economy, the long-term impact. Real estate's not able to move like it could before. All of those factors that are part of this, realizing that the assessment of property is a drag. So the direct impact of the moment of the economy right now materializes a year or two later. One note, it took until about now from the Great Recession to get to the levels we were then. So this is an example. It's a slow crawl back to the place that we were, but there is concern. And I know that the entire assessment team are looking at that, and a lot of this will be informed on the arc, if you will, of the rebound. And if it's helpful to have Dave Heber to give a special presentation to the full board, if people would like to hear the full presentation, we can arrange that at a previous meeting. He offered to make himself available. I didn't get any request to pull this off the consent agenda, so we can make that happen at a later board meeting for sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Chairman Woodward. I think there should be some great concern. We are spending a lot of money at the county, and I think it's good that we do a lot of what we're doing because we have to fight this pandemic. But homes aren't being sold. The new construction is not being completed. So these homes aren't changing hands, so they're not going to be uncapped. I think there's going to be a serious problem down the road. And I've raised this issue a little bit in the past too. There are a fair amount of overassessments in Oakland County, and this is going to come to a head, I believe, in conjunction with the fact that the state of Michigan is going to have to be cutting back because the revenue sharing is going to be down, sales tax income and income tax are going to be down, sales tax on gas. I think we have to think conservatively about spending money. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Jackson, are you able to tap in? Can't hear you. No, you can hear me, but I can't hear you. All right. If staff can circle back to make sure that Commissioner Jackson can get her sound activated. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the consent agenda.
On the consent agenda, Commissioners Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson. I see the thumbs up.
Can the notes reflect that Commissioner Jackson gives a very clear thumbs up?
Seehofer,
So we all can see.
Yes.
It works in the legislature, right? I call.
Koval,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
somebody just moved. Taub,
Yes.
Wiper,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Kirshenson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
A sufficient number voted in the affirmative. The motion carries. It wasn't on the agenda, a special presentation, but we do have Sean Carlson here. Sean, you're still here. I'm sorry, I moved to the consent agenda. The special presentation about where we have been spending the COVID pandemic response fund. And I know we have a presentation for everybody. So I see Sean has joined us, and I believe Lynn will put up the PowerPoint presentation to take us through a full accounting. Everyone should have received the memo that was sent out, the weekly memo. And Sean, I'll hand the floor to you to give us a financial summary about where these dollars are being spent in response to the pandemic.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So let me just get started with this. The report is through April 9th. Why don't we go to the next slide here? So this is just to capture the total related expenditures for COVID-19. It's in two major categories. The first one is the COVID-19, the appropriated fund that's been made available. So that's $6.5 million so far. We've spent 6.2. And then you'll see that green pie shape there represents departmental cost. So we continue to track cost as it relates to COVID related expenses to each of the departments. So next slide. So slide 3, just to give you a little bit here. So most of these expenditures, all of these expenditures relating to COVID-19 are covered by the existing FY 2020 department budgets. They're not being covered by the pandemic response appropriation. The departmental costs so far are reflected through March 27th. We just completed a payroll just this past Friday, so we should have updated cost the end of this week as it relates to departmental costs. So we will have a full 2 weeks to get a real good sense in regards to the hazardous / premium pay. The previous cost that went through March 27th only had about 4 days worth of the premium pay as part of that payroll. Technology costs for remote work and support for online transactions are also part of departmental costs. All of these departmental costs have the potential for reimbursement by FEMA as well as the CARES Act. Next slide. The last Board of Commissioners meeting I had mentioned, and I think I also mentioned to the Emergency Operations and Oversight Committee as well, that I was conducting reviews with each of the departments and elected offices as well to discuss if there was a need for any modifications of the assumptions in their current budget for 2020 for Q3 and Q4. There's a slight revenue concerns with the clerk's office, animal control, and the sheriff's office. Some expenditure concerns with the sheriff's office. All other departments are trending flat to slightly favorable. We are asking for a hiring freeze that will continue to assist in the cushioning the impact of these COVID-19 departmental expenditures. Next slide. I did provide this as a chart this morning when I sent out the report to the Board of Commissioners. So this is, I believe it was Commissioner Gingell that asked for somewhat of a burn rate, an average rate of spend. So the average rate of spend from March 5th through April 9th is about $173,000. We were allocated $500,000 by a board resolution on March 5th. Another $1 million was allocated on March 18th as things started to ramp up. $5 million was allocated on the 31st of March, the last time the Board of Commissioners met. And as you all know, the number of confirmed cases in Michigan, as well as the number of deaths, increased in Michigan and Oakland County. And if we were to stack that against this curve, we would see a similar rise. So you could see that our spending, we're at about $250,000 remaining in that pandemic response appropriation. If we go to the next slide, the next slide is PPE, personal protection equipment, and I would also say services as well. The bulk of that spend that is taking place there, which represents about $5.8 million. So if we go back to the previous slide just for a second. So the total spend is 6.2. If we look at the 6.2 for the PPE, next slide, you can see that most of it is protective covering. So we're talking about booties, gloves, surgical gowns, and then we're talking about masks and shields, face shields and N95 masks, as well as K95 masks. So that's where the bulk of the spend is coming. Next slide. So it's important to remember that there's an opportunity to reimburse these costs. We're trying to lean forward in this. The hospitals are reaching out to our EOC centers. Some hospitals are also looking for their own supply chains as well. Not much in the way from the federal government has been coming in, but some has come in to our EOC centers. So we're logging those as they come in, whether they're personal donations from the federal government or from purchase orders that we have made. And then we're distributing those back out to the hospitals and first responders. But in regards to reimbursement, we will continue to monitor, and any eligible expenditures under FEMA will reimburse at 75%. It's also important to remember that there's a number of things that would fall under the CARES Act as well. And according to the CARES Act, and some of our folks in DC that have shared with us, is that Oakland County will put in a separate application, given that we're over 500,000 in population, and we're estimated to receive $212 million. There's other unique grants in regards to community development block grant, homeless grants, emergency solutions grants, and others that you can see there. Some other grant opportunities are the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan, and then also the Department of Justice Burn Grant. Next slide. And I believe this is the last slide. I just wanted to give a sense of, I know we put in a request for $10 million, but these are the things, some of the immediate things that we're looking at is 550,000 surgical masks, 25,000 face shields, testing services, testing materials. If we're gonna crank up the economy at some point in time when we get past this health situation, it's important for us to have all these testing components in place. Mortuary supplies, mortuary services, sanitizer, booties, gloves, thermometers, tents, testing kits, and food. So those are all the future needs. I've asked the EOC to provide a needs for the next 4 weeks. They provided a summary of these items and a cost of $6.7 million for the next 4 weeks based upon these items. So I just wanted to share a quick, brief presentation with you, just to say that we're trying to support all our residents and communities by working with the hospitals and the first responders. So I'm open for any questions. Thank you.
So yeah, if we can get the presentation up, if we need to go back, I know there's a couple of people have questions. The difficulty is I can't see everybody all at the same time. So if you would like to speak or ask a question of Sean as it relates to any of this information and how any of this relates to the need for the appropriation coming forward, just acknowledge yourself. So I think Commissioner Spiz, you're there?
Yeah, Sean answered my question.
Oh,
Going through it.
okay.
I'm good for now.
Anybody else that has a question for Sean? Commissioner Middleton.
Commissioner Long does too.
Okay, so Middleton followed by Long. Commissioner Middleton and then Taub. Okay, and then Taub. Okay, so Commissioner Middleton, then Long and Taub. Commissioner Middleton.
Oops.
Are you unmuted? Commissioner Middleton?
I'm ready.
Okay. The pie chart that showed supplies, are those supplies going to our employees or where are they being distributed?
So I believe that, yeah, right there. Those are going to the hospitals to support our residents that are in the hospitals. Some of them are going to our first responders though as well, but the bulk of that. I did provide a report a few weeks ago in regards to the distribution of PPE. I can provide another report to you if you would like to see exactly where that distribution is going.
Okay, we'll let it go with that for a while.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. I've got Commissioner Long, Taub, Hoffman, and then keep raising your hand and staff's helping me recognize you. So Commissioner Long.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chairman Woodward. Thanks, Sean, for the presentation. I did review it via email also. So according to what we're burning, our current burn rate is about $173,000 a day, you're saying. Why can't we just request like 2.5 million today and that would give 14 days of spending monies? Why do you think you need the 10 million? We could always have another board meeting in like 2 weeks. So why are you predicting the big, the 10 million that we need right now?
Well, we asked the last board meeting, we were asking for, there was a thought of having 2.5 at the last minute. We switched it to 5. I'm very grateful and happy that the Board of Commissioners made that decision because as you can see, we're holding up some purchases right now at 251,000. So I'm asking for 10. We're looking at 6.7. I just don't want to be in a situation where we're not moving forward. There's a little bit more aggressive spending that's taking place now. So that 173,000 burn rate, I appreciate the question. Although the burn rate from April 1st to April 9th is much higher than that. So the costs were on average a lot lower than that prior to the pandemic really hitting Oakland County. I hope that answers your question.
It does. So you're thinking the burn rate, it's already gone up. Now we just don't have the report, you're saying per day? Because that burn rate was up until, well, I thought that was up to April 9th. So you're saying that cost has already gone up?
Yeah, the burn rate of 173,000, the bulk of that burn rate, if you look at that one graph, you can see from March 31st to April 9th, that's where a lot of the spend took place. So the average, was brought down by the fact that we had minor spend take place between the 5th of March and the 30th of March.
Okay. All right. That's good for now. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Middleton, you want to be recognized again? I got a couple people in front of you.
Yes, for a second time when you get ready.
Okay, I'll put you back on the list. Commissioner Taub.
Thank you. I have several questions. The first one is, have you applied at all to FEMA for any refunds yet?
I believe the answer is no, but I will confirm that for you, Commissioner.
Okay, Commissioner Middleton asked if our staffs, our regular staff, not the jail staff, not our sheriff's deputies, but our regular staff have received masks. Have their families received masks? I think this is a kind of an important thing because we have people working, I know, at the board without masks. I wondered why our staff has not been offered masks.
I'll be happy to ask that question and get back to you.
Okay, now we have about 9 hospitals in Oakland County. Are we supplying all of them or just a few hospitals?
I believe we're supplying all of them. I provided that PPE report distribution 2 weeks ago. I believe just about all the hospitals were on there, but I will confirm that and I will send out another report so you can see the distribution of all the personal protection equipment and where it's going.
Okay, and what about our local?
It's also going to our first responders though as well. That's important to understand.
Well, who's first responders, the counties or
Our local CVTs.
Okay, because I had a request from one of my mayors for some face masks and they just hope they got them, that's all.
Okay, it will be on that report. So all requests are on that report as well as distribution back out to the CVTs and the hospitals. So you'll be able to see that.
Last question, if I may, Mr. Chair. When we built our morgue several years ago, the new morgue, we had a lot of room for bodies. Are we using that morgue now to help out the local mortuaries and others?
Yes, but it's not enough. We are in conversations about getting a couple extra vehicles, trailers, as well as racks. So it is clearly not enough.
Okay, because I think we had room for 200 or 300 bodies, I guess you'd say. Okay, thank you, Mr.
Unfortunately,
Chair.
it is not enough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Taub. I got Commissioner Hoffman, followed by Commissioner Middleton. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Chairman Woodward. And Sean, thank you for your presentation. I have a question though, and I want to make sure I heard this right. How much money, you mentioned $7 million. Is that what you anticipate going through in the next 2 weeks? Is that what I heard?
The number was 6.7 over the next 4 weeks.
Oh, 4 weeks. Okay. I don't have a calculator. I just wonder what that burn rate is per day.
Divided by 28.
It's a couple 100,000 maybe.
Yeah. I see.
A little more. Okay. All right. Let's hope we're on the downside of this thing. Thank you.
We won't spend it if we don't need to, and I really hope we don't need to, but we want to be prepared if we have to.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I also want to report too that we also have masks that are going to our shelters as well as our senior living centers as well. So I think that's an important note to point out too as well.
Commissioner Middleton for a second time.
Thank you. Are the hospitals asking for federal money also for personal protection? So or are we the only provider of personal protection equipment purchased from the federal government?
I will get a complete answer for you on that, but my understanding from it is that hospitals are working with us, but they are also trying to fill their own supply chain needs as well. So they're putting in requests with our emergency operations center, as well as looking and hunting for PPE supplies and equipment as well. So we continue to be in constant communication with all of the hospitals, but they are looking to provide and fulfill their needs in other places besides us as well.
Okay, I'll wait for that report then. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioners that have any questions for Sean at this time?
Commissioner Gingell does.
Commissioner Gingell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sean, first of all, thanks for putting the information together, particularly the burn chart. And what I was trying to understand with that is if we could have any insight into when the spending might start decreasing and go back to zero, hopefully sooner than later. Obviously, I know we all want that. So this chart is good because if we were to interject another $5 million or more, not following the linear dots, but looking at a pattern, what it would say is that our spending's not going to stop for at least another month or two here. And the burn rate's going to go up on a daily basis. So I'm just trying to work myself through how does that square when you start looking at, the money we spent so far, the $500,000, the million, the 5 million, and then you put 1.3 million into the economic stimulus. That's 8.3 million. And now we put another 10 million on here. That's 18.3 million. And it's not showing that the burn rate's starting to slow down. It's continuing to accelerate. Now, maybe that's just, it's lagging potentially the peak in cases and deaths. Maybe it's just because there's all this upfront push to obtain all these materials. And once we hit a certain quantity, you'll have a steep decline. But, do you have any thoughts on looking at when this might start declining instead of increasing?
I don't. I mean, I think you'll have to talk to the health department in regards to, they would have a better idea of projections of when they start to see consistency and if we have bent the curve and if we're on a downhill trajectory. I think what we're trying to do here is just to make sure that we have the supplies, that we lean in, and that we support our residents and our communities in this time of need. I would also just underscore that we have the potential for reimbursement with FEMA and then also with the CARES Act as well to replenish these accounts. So, but unfortunately, I can't give you a projection of when that downhill slope is going to occur, Commissioner.
Yeah, so maybe it's something we could follow up on, and I'm happy to reach out to the health department if that's what you recommend. But I think it would be good for us, at least for me, to be able to see kind of a correlation between our spend and cases and deaths and how this starts dropping off. Because I think the biggest thing is we all want to have a sense of urgency, that's for sure. But we also need to have a tenor of patience and wisdom. And while we have money, and I understand that, and we need to help, we also need to be mindful here of, we're at 18.3 million if we put this other 10 in, and it's not slowing down from what the burn chart shows you.
Right. Well, like I said, we have those reimbursement costs as well. So I wouldn't say that is 18.3 that is lost to the county. Certainly not when it's supporting our residents. But the other thing I would mention too is that testing is going to be really important to us, not only from a health perspective, but as we try to reopen the economy and get things going again. So that testing will be ever so important for the county to make sure that that's in place and up and going as well. But I appreciate your questions, and we'll ask and coordinate with the health department to follow up with you.
Is that all, Commissioner Gingell, for now?
One more, Mr. Chair, if I may. I know that you had a number of things on that list that you're saying were needed in the next few months or whatever. Are any of those things on order, or are you waiting for this money to be approved to actually order these things and then have them come in over the next 4 weeks?
Well, there are some things that are on order, like the 25,000 face shields and some of the 550,000 surgical masks. So those orders are in place, but we are needing the other items as well. So.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Woodward,
Middleton.
Spiz, I have a question.
Oh,
Let me get a-
Commissioner Spiz. Spiz, Bowles, and then I got Middleton. I heard Middleton again, so I'll recognize you again. But Commissioner Spiz.
Yeah, Sean, thank you for putting this together. One question I have, one thing I don't see on this list is gowns or coverings. We don't need any more of those? I thought we were out looking for more.
No, the gowns should be on there, but you are right. Booties, caps, gloves. We did just put in a big order of gowns that was part of that last big spend that took place. So it's possible that the gowns came off the list.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Middleton, I think I heard you. Do you have another question?
Thank you.
Commissioner, go ahead.
Sean, is any of this future spending scheduled for Suburban Showplace in Novi? They were scheduled to have 900 beds. I heard today they've scaled that down to 250. And I was wondering if your calculations were still at the 900 number and it's been scaled down.
Their numbers are not in this presentation. I believe the state is providing the resources for that alternative care facility. I think that's what they're calling it. And it's 250 beds, I think, is where we're at.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other commissioners that have questions for Sean? Going once, going twice. Sean, I just had I have two things, and I think that kind of were addressed. The future needs, the things that we're trying to gather, is really based on the demands that are coming through our emergency operations center, correctly? So all our CVTs, our hospitals, we're not making these numbers up. These are the requests and needs that are being identified by our police chiefs, fire chiefs, hospital,
Senior
personnel,
living centers. Senior living centers. Yeah.
Correct. Good. Okay. And the testing piece, I think that you made this extra point, and this is probably something, frankly, the 10 million is not going to be enough. The amount of testing that's going to be required to help manage this once we get to a post-stay-home world is going to be immense. And I know that we're trying to ramp up testing capacity, and I think we've gotten some increased testing capacity, but we're nowhere near meeting the scale of testing that's required. Would that be accurate as well?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for this presentation. And seeing no other commissioners speaking, we will move on to the next part of the agenda. So, Sean, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners.
And that will bring us to, and I apologize for skipping, I meant to do that before the consent agenda, but this will bring us to the regular agenda. And so the first committee, the Emergency Operations Oversight Committee, if I could, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Gershenson. You're on mute. To present on behalf of the Emergency Operations Oversight Committee.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two items on the regular agenda today. The first is a resolution titled County Executive Extended Continuation of Local, State, and Emergency Due to the Coronavirus Pandemic. Mr. Chair, I move to recommend adoption of the foregoing resolution.
Motion by Commissioner Gershenson, seconded by Commissioner Spiz. Any discussion on that? This is Commissioner Spiz.
Yes, I'd like to propose an amendment to this resolution.
And that amendment is on
98, I believe.
page 98 in our packets.
Everybody can take a look at it. I'm looking to add an additional, be it further resolved, to request or require a plan from the administration relative to when and how the employees can go back to work within the county, and have that by April 30th of 2020.
Motion by Commissioner Spiz to adopt that amendment, seconded by Commissioner Gingell. if I may speak to it, I've talked to Commissioner Spiz. I think this is an appropriate thing. The administration's supportive. This is definitely something directly in our purview, and so I will be supporting this amendment. And I think further, I think there's some additional conversations of what a post stay home world looks like, and we'll be bringing that conversation to the upcoming next emergency operations and oversight committee. But I support this amendment. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
On the amendment, Commissioners Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
hey, I can hear you.
Yes. Hi.
Oxendorfer,
You heard
Yes.
it.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Eipert,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Gingell.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
A sufficient number voted in the affirmative. The amendment is adopted. That brings us to the main motion before us. Is there any further discussion on continuing the local state of emergency due to the coronavirus? Commissioner Gingell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two questions. Under this resolution, the county executive administration has broader powers, and in the previous resolution, there was a hardship pay of 1.5 that was implemented after the board adopted this emergency resolution and gave the county executive those powers. Do we know what the plan is on the current pay structure there? Because the 1.5 runs out at the end of this current resolution, which is April 17th. So either the employees will stay at 1.5, they'll go back to their regular rate, or something else will occur, and the county exec will be able to make that decision once we provide them this extension.
I guess I'll speak to it from an HR perspective, which is in the purview of the executive, has the ability to make that decision. Correct.
Right? Do we know what the intent is? Because we're empowering him to do it without our authority with this movement here.
I don't know. I don't have that answer.
We've asked April Lynch to join us.
Okay. If we want to hold for a second.
So maybe a second question while April's joining. So the the Emergency Operations Committee, we formed that when we initially extended the powers to the county executive. Is that something that automatically continues if the county executive emergency powers are extended? Or is that something that the board could choose to go back to the previous committee structure? Or do we have to vote?
We have, both options. So I can answer that. Whoever, okay. Two options. And so that provision that created the Emergency Operations Oversight Committee was something that could get triggered under the declaration of an emergency by the county executive. But also, if the board wanted to vote to go back to the regular committee structure, we could do that as well. The few commissioners that have reached out would like to kind of get us back into that space. I think that there's also a recognition of staff capacity to support the committee structure as we normally had done before. And so, Mr. Ward is reaching out to get April on the phone. I'll let him to speak to it, the staff capacity to help support the 5 standing committees that we had before. And so I guess it's about, but yes, the board could vote if we want to go back to and post the regular committee structure as before, or we can run the course with the emergency in place, or and something that I'm interested in doing is looking for a time reasonable to do it, even with the emergency operation in place, to get us back to the committee structure. Because I know it's been a more of a time burden on a handful of people, but it's been necessary to get some of the important stuff before it's done.
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't buying or selling. I just didn't know if that was something that automatically happened or if we had to vote and extend it.
It's I think when we adopted the resolution, I think we adopted the amendment to the board rules that it spells out that provision.
Okay.
Mr. Ward, is April able to join us?
April is with you right now.
Hi, man.
Hi, April.
Hi, how are you guys?
So,
Good.
Commissioner Gage, do you want to ask your question again?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, hi, April. Just a quick question. You know, we're deliberating extending the emergency powers to the county executive and therefore the administration, which gives broader powers on policy decisions and spending decisions. And previously, the first time we did this, the administration instituted a hardship pay 1.5 for essential employees, et cetera. And so the question was, if we extend these powers, do we know or do we have any insight in what the administration is planning to do with the hardship pay? Because the current 1.5 runs out April 17th under the original emergency order. And once we approve this, the administration will be able to do what they choose to do. So I'm just asking what you might choose to do prior to voting to approve it.
Our intention is to do the next 3 weeks to continue with the hazard pay.
And is it
And
at
the
the
majority of our
1.5?
employees that are the frontliners are the ones that are getting the coronavirus at this time. So our intention is to do the next 3 weeks.
At the same rate?
Yes, please. Yeah. Or close to it. I'm working through that right now.
Okay. And do you know any other significant policy decisions that you may be considering as a part of the extension?
No, not at this time. I do know that, going back to the amendment that's made about, what I would call return to work or recovery mode. That's what we're going to be focusing on as well these next 2 weeks. Is getting people, how are we going to flow people back to the office, assuming there's going to be social distancing, and what will that look like?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, April. Commissioners, any further discussion on the resolution as a whole? Commissioner Whiteford.
So over the next 3 weeks, how many people is it going to apply to?
Commissioner.
It's the same as before, all of our first responders, as well as anybody who has to come on site. So it'll be the same. The first 3 weeks will look, the first 3 weeks we did will look exactly the same the second time around. Just those that are coming on site. It's particularly for our 24/7 are the big component. It's all of our sheriff, our dispatchers, and our children's village and correction.
So what's the total cost so far?
It still averages about $3 million per pay period, give or take a little bit. It's driving a little bit less than that right now, but I'd like to keep it there just in case.
Thank you.
I got Commissioner Hoffman.
Hi, April. You mentioned all the people that come on site. Are those all county employees?
Yes.
Okay. So they don't necessarily have to be in the sheriff department or in the jail. Give me an example of other people that might cover, if you would, please. Oh, our clerk.
Yeah, it's mostly all of the 24/7. To be frankly honest, there's a few that may come in site that that have to do some certain computer programs on site, or there's some fiscal folks that might have to be at the courthouse. We still have some court employees that come. It's very limited because the courts have limited what they're doing face-to-face as well. So I would say 90% of those costs are coming from the 24/7 operation, probably even more than 95%. WRC as well. All of our water sewer folks, when they're on site, they're getting hazard pay.
All right, thank you. And one more follow-up. we have contractors, outside contractors coming onto the site too, but they have contracts with us. We've not adjusted their pay yet.
No. And the majority, a lot of our contracts that we have in place have been halted.
Okay, thanks again, April.
Thank you, Commissioner. I got, up next is Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. April, I just wanted to ask that, I think there's some employees that would ordinarily be considered their FTEs, but if they're just coming in for, say, 20 hours to do what they need to do at the county, are they still getting their full-time salary and then time and a half on top of
They
that?
are right now, we're calling them rotating teams as they come in and out. So that we can keep the capacity. We weren't sure what we were going to look for as it relates to absences. Right now, primarily our sheriffs and our other 24/7 operations are the ones that are being hit the hardest with getting COVID as we expected. But right now, that's how we're managing that for the next couple of weeks. As I said before, in talking about how we're going to manage our workforce going forward, we do need to figure out if social distancing continues to take place at this level or at a continued at a higher alert level. We'll have to rethink what that might look like.
So if I may follow up then, so then if somebody is working, say 20 hours, you said they're rotating, so they're still receiving their full-time pay and time and a half of their full-time pay?
Only when they come on site, not when if they're not working. They have to be on site because we do have people who are working from home as well. They're not getting any of that.
Okay, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I understand the time and a half hazard, but getting paid full-time for half-time and then time and a half on top of that, I don't get that.
That's just the way we're managing it right now, especially in WRC where we're rotating teams in and out to make sure that we have people on standby and on call for when we have people who call in sick and things of that nature and call outs and just trying to keep everybody as healthy as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Kowal. Commissioner Gingell for a second time. Anybody else for a first time? Commissioner Gingell.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So April, just one other quick question.
Sure.
And I know that we're dealing with union members and other things here, but have we looked at like the state police or the city of Detroit or other CVTs and what their hazard pay shook out to be in relation to ours? And is there any opportunity to discuss a different rate that might be more aligned with what others are doing?
Yeah, I'm working on that right now to see what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, I just want to say that I had an opportunity to talk to some of our front line on the phone, and I wanted to say I think what we're doing is great. I think, well, I know they appreciate it, and it's the right thing to do. We have the opportunity to do a Skype type meeting where they don't have an opportunity to Skype and watch, the jails, right? So I think, this is something that's great. And not to go against what Commissioner Gingell said, but it's always been said that we're Oakland County, we're the leaders in everything. So I feel like we should continue that. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you very much. Commissioner Spiz.
Just a quick question. April, you may know the answer, you may not know it. Do we have a rough number of people that are getting this? I know you said the sheriff's department and everybody comes on site. Is that 200, 300, 400 people roughly? Just a rough number.
Oh, no, I would say approximately 1,200, most of them out of the sheriff, Children's Village, corrections, and dispatch.
Okay, thank you.
I can get a better number for you too.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Anybody else, a discussion on the main motion of continuing the local state emergency due to the coronavirus pandemic resolution? Commissioner Middleton.
I didn't hear that number, April. That $3 million of pay period is distributed amongst how many people?
Can you refer? I didn't hear the question again. You cut out.
Okay. You mentioned how many people were receiving that pay. That $3 million is being distributed among how many people?
About 12. There's about 1,200. The majority are the
Sheriff's Department.
sheriffs and corrections and dispatch in Children's Village.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the resolution.
On the resolution, Commissioners Jackson, Jackson,
Yeah. Sorry.
thank you.
Laughing.
Yes, okay, thank you. Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
No.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
No.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
Cobb,
No.
Whitebert,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
No.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 yeas, 4 nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. I will go back, it's been so long. I will go back to Commissioner Gershenson for the Emergency Operations Committee. Go ahead.
That concludes the report of the Emergency Operations.
Nope. Item E. I know it was a while.
Okay, I don't have it on my agenda. Which one? Item E?
It's item E.
Yes,
Yes.
the Human Resource Department revision to Merit Rule 23 for annual leave buyback.
Moved by Commissioner Gershenson, seconded by Commissioner Quarles. Any discussion? Commissioner Spiz, followed by, I think, Commissioner Gingell also. Commissioner Spiz.
Yeah, I made the same comment in the emergency operations meeting. I just don't understand why we need to be doing this at this time. There's many private businesses out there that are actually making their people take their vacations, especially when they're working from home, right? Because what ultimately is going to happen is everybody's going to come back to the office and work, and then you're going to see an influx of vacation that needs to be taken by people. I understand in certain circumstances this is needed for people in emergency situations, but I don't think we should be doing it across the board for entire Oakland County.
Commissioner Gingell, followed by Commissioner Long.
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr.
Gingell.
Chair. Yeah, I was going to echo Commissioner Spiz's comments similar to the Emergency Operations Committee. I just don't understand why we need to do it now. I think our regular policy allows for us to assess this in August. And I know we were wanting to move it up in April, but we have a number of employees at home, working from home and getting paid the full salary. But now doesn't seem like the time to me to go to employees across our entire employee base and offer to start buying back vacation time. My company, quite frankly, just forced about 60 or 70% of the company to take vacation last week and use the vacation time, because in most private sector companies, if you don't use it by the end of the year, you lose it. And I have never been in a place where we've had the opportunity to get vacation bought back if we weren't going to use it. So I just don't see why we need to do this now.
Commissioner Long, followed by Commissioner Hoffman.
Okay, I am trying to understand this. I know the monies would come from the fringe benefit fund, in which they always come from. Is this a cost Eden, or is it going to cost the county more money to do this earlier? You know that, Dave?
So I think the answer to that question is that maybe we should make sure that we're all on the same page. So we have a rate in which people accrue vacation. We, a few years back, started a process for those who've been with the county a long time at the very top end, and frankly will, in some cases, accrue more vacation than they can use. And if they don't use it, they lose it. And so we offered people to buy back 1 week to have them on staff to do the work that we want to do. So as Commissioner Spiz and Ginjo like mentioned, like in August is usually where we allow buyback to happen in the same fiscal year. The recommendation was to allow that provision in April, and as well as give the flexibility to determine in the fiscal year when we would allow this. The alternative is to release more people, and frankly, some of our first responders we need, and we are having trouble covering shifts at Children's Village. We're having, I think, some coverage gaps in other areas, and so this is a way to manage this. We would have done it in August, moving it up. It is not like additional time. This is like buying back up to 1 week for those individuals, so they'd be working.
Okay, so Dave, is it cost neutral then? Or no, we don't know? I mean, you're buying it early. Is it gonna be?
Right. Well, we already had it built in, to buy 1 week, which we would be normally offered in August. So buying it back earlier it changes the quarterly, if you will, where it would be, it's still in the same fiscal year.
Okay.
Commissioner Hoffman.
My questions were answered. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the matter? Commissioner Wiper, followed by Commissioner Ginjo and Smith. Second time.
Are there people working right now because they're dedicated that can't use it, that won't be able to take it later? That's my question. I mean, all my Ford friends, they took vacation last week. It was mandatory. Ford's a big company. They said, you guys are going on vacation, or you, both people. But as to our employees, are there people that aren't going to be able to, that are working now? I mean, people that are on our like Lynn. I mean, all the people that are working for us now that aren't taking vacation because they're working on this COVID, are they going to miss it out if we don't do it now?
So again, the recommendation came from the administration. I would say, I ask anyone else on the committee, I can't remember off the top of my head the total number of people. It isn't a large number of people who are eligible for this. These are the folks who've been with the county for a long time and they cap out. They have already an accrued vacation bank. I think the idea is that to have the flexibility to keep people working to cash it out now for whatever reason that employees and or departments want to manage their operations. But I don't have a list of how many individuals. I think
the concept is, do we have to do it now? Are there people that are dedicated to Oakland County that are working now that won't be able to do it later? Because they've chosen to work in this COVID. Are there those people? I mean,
I think it's conceivable.
Is Lynn still on the? Are there staff people?
I don't want to call out an individual staff person about their individual circumstance. I guess I think it's important that at some point we would dole it out. I mean, the ability to buy back 1 week in August, that's already set in place. This is about making it available in April. Got Commissioner Ginjo, Commissioner Spiz, and then Commissioner Hoffman again. Commissioner Ginjo. And then Commissioner Quarles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So these are the questions I think we were trying to get answered at the Emergency Operations Committee. One to Commissioner Wiper's point, just the timing of it. But I guess more importantly, it's, if it's really about the people that are on emergency operations, 24/7 operations, and they had a vacation planned and they're not able to take it, and they won't be able to take it between now and the end of the year, do they get the opportunity to get the money now, or do they get the money in August? And if it's really a certain set of people that we're talking about, why wouldn't we just call that out in the resolution so it doesn't appear that it's a county-wide effort? And then the last thing, I think that vacation, at least at my work, vacation requires manager approval. So while we have, sheriff deputies and others that are working today and we want to keep them working, I don't think they can just carte blanche say, hey, I'm taking vacation tomorrow. I think it requires managerial approval, and we're compensating them with this 1.5 hardship pay to be here and to be working. So I think there's a lot to this, and I'm still just struggling to try to figure out why do we need to do it now, and why is it across the entire employee class?
Commissioner Spiz, followed by Commissioner Quarles. Commissioner
Thank you,
Spiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I'm also not mistaken, this is not just a one-time thing. This is going to be a common practice going forward. We're changing the rule altogether. It's not just for COVID. It's not just for 2020. It's something that the administration is looking to do going forward year after year after year. Also, on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, from what Sean Carlson presented, we already have revenue concerns in the clerk's department, animal control, sheriff's office, and we got expenditures concern in the sheriff's office. And we should be looking at ways to start cutting costs, eliminating costs versus trying to pull costs into different quarters. Just my 2 cents.
Commissioner Quarles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I read the resolution, I think one of the purposes that we're doing this is we're in the midst of uncertain times. And because of that, it sounds as if many county employees have accrued vacation time, which they don't know if they're going to be able to take it later in the year. So therefore, as I read this resolution, that is the reason why we're offering it now, so that we can have employees working after they come back. And there's probably going to be times where we're going to need them to do extended time to get their job done. So I see this as a proactive step, and I certainly support it. And I think this is a positive in this vacation buyback now. Looking forward to when we get all our employees back and they're back into doing the work that's needed, in which they will probably have to extend themselves more to compensate for the time that they're off. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller. And then Commissioner Hoffman. Well, you already spoke to Commissioner Hoffman. So Commissioner Miller for a first time, then Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in my many years of negotiating, this is common for employers to adopt this for the reason as there are people that they're at their max. They accrued it because either the policy or the contract states it, and they potentially may not take vacation. So it's giving them back because it's answering Commissioner Long. I believe it's a cost neutral, because you'd have to pay that out anyways if they took the time. So they're giving up their time to work, which if they have that many hours, they're a seasoned employee. So they are very important too. Not saying everybody's not important, but they're important in the skill that they have. They've been there a while, they know the county. And especially now, it makes sense because as soon as it's over with, if they took a vacation right afterwards, that's longer that we wouldn't have them. So I understand the April date. And I'm all for this August going forward, because either they're going to take it or we're going to pay them out the same as we're going to pay them no matter what. So what's the difference, right? Might as well, they said they want to give their time back to the county and not take that week. Why not? Why not do it for them? Instead of them having to take the time if they don't want to. They don't have to take it. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hoffman for a second time.
For the first time on this subject.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you very much. We've been dealing with a lot of things that are an emergency in nature. This is not one of them. We're going to have a lot more meetings between now and August. And if for some reason we determine that we should deal with it, we should deal with it then. I have not seen any numbers of how many people we're talking to or how much this is going to be a problem for somebody. Everybody's locked down now. And I guess my next question is, comment, I don't think it's necessary right now. I do have a question though. What rate of pay do they get paid? Are those that are making time and a half gonna get time and a half, or it's the regular 40-hour pay?
The regular 40.
Okay, which I assumed it would be, but I don't think there's any emergency to do this now because I haven't seen any information that tells us this is an emergency like the other things we've dealt with. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else wants to speak to this subject? I think everyone who's wanted to speak has been able to speak. And I guess I would just say that I think Commissioner Miller summed it up well, that people we're going to pay it out in vacation time, or we allow people to pay it back and we buy that time to be able to get additional time for them to be serving our county. So I'm supportive of this. It doesn't have a fiscal impact beyond what it would automatically be in August anyway. So I'm supporting it.
Commissioner Woodward?
Commissioner Gitto.
Yes, sorry, I know it's multiple times, but Commissioner Miller's comment made me question something. So my understanding is that we are not limiting this to any particular class or segment of the employee base. It's not just the people that have a significant amount of vacation. It's not just the people that are on emergency 24/7 operations. My understanding is if I'm a county employee and I have a week's vacation and I decide I want the county to buy it from me, that's permissible. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it.
I would just say that this policy is what's been consistent that we've been practicing for years, and we found it as a way to not only for employee retention, but for management of the offices, of the departments. Commissioner Miller for a second time, or we'll vote. Commissioner Miller.
So to answer Commissioner Gingell, it's in the memo that April sent out on April 6th, annual leave. It talks about allows those who may be at max accrual vacation cash out. Eligible requires the employee to have a minimum of 60 hours in their bank. So it spells it out right in their memo she sent out. That's I don't know what page that's on, but it's in that section there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. All right. Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the resolution, Commissioners Kokendorfer,
No.
Gowal,
No.
Boone,
No.
Long,
No.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
No.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
No.
Cobb,
No.
Whitebird,
Only because of the emergency, yes, but next time, no.
okay, is that a yes?
Viper, can you say that? Can you say it again?
It was for the emergency only.
Okay, I just need like a yes or no on this resolution.
Yeah.
Thank you. Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
No.
Hoffman,
No.
Jackson,
Yes.
okay, thank you. Okay. So. Look at everybody. Mr. Chair, you have 12 yeas, 9 nays.
A sufficient number voted in the affirmative, the resolution passes. Commissioner Gershenson, anything else?
That concludes the report of the Emergency Operations and Oversight Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner. Brings us to our next item. I would recognize Commissioner McGilvray as the chair of the Public Safety and Social Justice Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one item on the regular agenda today, item miscellaneous resolution 20057. Board of Commissioners facilitate and consolidation of the law enforcement and corrections officers, court services bargaining units of Oakland County Deputy Sheriff's Association. I have a report from the Public Safety and Social Justice Committee recommending adoption of this resolution with amendments as presented. Mr. Chair, I move the acceptance of this foregoing report.
Moved by Commissioner McGilvery, seconded by Commissioner Miller to accept the report. All in favor of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, say nay. The report is adopted. Moved by Commissioner McGilvery, seconded by Commissioner Miller to move the resolution. And I believe we have a amendment to that resolution. What page is it on? One,
98 somewhere.
yeah, I think it is. Yep. 1 second. I'm gonna make sure we're all operating from the
Way up
same-
there.
Way up there. Way up there. No?
I think it's
79, I
79.
believe.
Is
Oh,
it the,
not that far. Oh, wait.
that's not the right one. Hold on a second.
I think it's
79, I think.
Yes,
What page?
79.
79.
101. 101. Page
Yes.
101. Here we go. There we go.
Okay.
101.
Okay, I thought it was
There we go.
200.
We have amazing staff. That's a lot faster than all of us. All right. 101.
There
So
we
there's
go.
amendment.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a motion to move the amendment? Moved by Commissioner Gershenson, seconded by Commissioner McGilvery to move the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chair, will you read the amendment, please?
It's on page 101. It does. Let me read like what it does, and before I read all the words. So the first thing, it changes the title to be basically respecting the PA 312 rights of all bargaining units. And then in the first now therefore be a resolve clause, it strikes the end of that sentence so that it reads, so the whole line will read, now therefore be a resolve that the Oakland County Board of Commissioners recognizes that it's in the interest of the County of Oakland that all the public safety personnel that work side by side to protect our citizens and are protected by the Oakland County Deputy Sheriff's Association should be afforded the rights and protections as delineated in Public Act 312, 1969. And it strikes out the very last paragraph, basically doing the same thing, but spells it out in a more detailed way. It says, be it further resolved that in the event that there is unresolved mandatory subjects of bargaining involving the corrections and court services, bargaining unit employees represented by the Oakland County Command Officers Association or the Oakland County Deputy Sheriff's Association, and either association files for interest arbitration under 312 and or a mutually agreed upon memorandum of understanding, the Board of Commissioner authorizes and requests the county executive or his designee to facilitate a cooperative PA 312 proceeding consistent with the policy or enter into a mutually agreed upon memorandum of understanding. It spells out in very detail and how that last paragraph was written to negotiate the MOU. It lays out how it will happen. It's on page 101 of the PDF. And I've worked, yeah, Commissioner Cole, I'll get back to you in a second. Just in clarity, the purpose of this original resolution was to ensure that our members of, both bargaining units, the Oakland County Command Union and the Deputy Sheriff's Association, that all the employees had rights guaranteed under 312. And this cleans up the language, simplifies it, makes it very clear. Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand that the whole reason that this got started was because of the binding arbitration issue, which would have been possible to take care of that with amendments to, I believe, contracts or a memorandum of understanding. And so to consolidate the bargaining units wasn't necessary to accomplish that. So I understand that we're still consolidating the bargaining units. And I just want some clarification on this.
Clarification. Yeah. Well, the reason why this amendment needs, needed to be adopted to be very clear that the resolution speaks to broad policy of recognizing our public law enforcement staff. I mean, are part of these units are eligible for 312, all of them. It is not to say we are not negotiating a contract. There are two agreements under the deputy sheriffs, as we talked about before. We're not combining those two units. What we are saying is that all the members of the Oakland County Deputy Sheriff's Association, if this resolution is adopted, that 312 applies to all of them. There's still two separate agreements, and they need to be negotiated in the future. Same for the command union. Never was split, as we know the history of how the deputy union got split. Command never was split. This is recognizing 312 for everybody.
So if I may follow up, then are we not consolidating bargaining units?
When you say consolidating, you're talking about Unit 9 and 10 in the Deputy Sheriff's Association? When you say consolidate, what do you mean by consolidate?
Well, the different bargaining units that are under the, under the sheriff's, under law enforcement. I don't know how many different bargaining, I think there's at least 3. And so are we consolidating those under
So
one?
there's the Oakland County Deputy Sheriff's Association, and then there's the Oakland County Command Union. Those are the two unions that exist there. We're not combining those. Within the Oakland County Deputy Sheriff's Association back in 2007, that really is creating the impetus of why we're considering taking this action today. There was a determination that some members were eligible for 312 and some weren't. And what we're doing with this resolution is recognizing that all members of that union, as well as our other union, all members are eligible for 312. So does that make sense?
Right. So in essence, are we then consolidating those two? Or just recognizing that, okay, thank
All
you.
the employees have 312, right?
Thank you.
And the amendment is an attempt to clarify that, to make sure that that's what we're seeking to do, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, just making sure. Thanks.
Commissioner Gingell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just had a quick question on just the material nature of the resolution, because I did actually end up talking to some of the individuals in the administration as well as the leadership team in the sheriff's office. And what I was told, or at least my understanding, is that the administration has the ability to do this through a memorandum of understanding and a negotiation, and they don't need a resolution from the Board of Commissioners relative to their ability to do what this resolution is saying.
This resolution establishes policy, as well as recognizing the process of the MOU that the administration would work through with the existing contracts that are in place moving forward. Any further questions? Commissioner Taub.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I need to get this straight. As I understand it, road patrol were part of the 312 arbitration, correct? And the deputies in the jail were not. Is that the way it was?
That's back in 2007. Prior to that, they were all one unit, and then after 2007, they were separated. Correct.
Okay. Now, what about other people in other jails throughout the state? Are they all part of 312, or are we the exception?
There are other counties, I believe, that have recognized. I believe the county of Kalamazoo has. I can't speak to all of them.
So I believe there's a different fee schedule, if I'm not mistaken, for road patrol versus the jail people. Is that correct? Or is that, or does this?
I don't have the contract before me, but I think that there are different fee schedules, salary schedules for different positions in general. But the road patrol currently is the only entity that has 312 rights and those in the jail do not. And that's why we're bringing this forward.
Okay, so now do we have any idea about what this is going to cost us? Because if we're moving our jail people into 312, okay, our people in the jails, our deputies, then does that mean, and they're all under one bargaining unit, does that mean everybody gets the same pay?
I think any contract negotiation is unique from itself, so it doesn't imply that. What it does imply is that when you have men and women serving shoulder to shoulder and people moving in and out of jail duty, patrol duty, or what have you, engaging in law enforcement, every employee will have rights to 312.
I understand that part. Okay, that is not my question. My
Okay.
question is, currently, at least I believe currently, there's a different fee schedule, a different salary schedule for road patrol versus jail attendees, okay? Period. If they're in the same bargaining unit, does that then mean that everybody, whether they work in the jail or whether they're in a car on the patrol, make the same salary?
The deputies that work in the jail and do the patrols are part of the Oakland County Deputy Sheriff's Association currently. Contracts come before this body and we approve those contracts. And so the fee schedule is spelled out in those contracts. I mean, I think you're talking about a contract issue, which is a legitimate issue to talk about, but it's not related. I mean, this resolution deals with extending 312 bargaining rights to all our law enforcement personnel.
But you just said that there will be 2 bargaining units, not 3. So if there are 2 bargaining units,
I didn't say that.
I would be,
Commissioner, Commissioner Todd, let me clarify. Currently in the Oakland County Deputy Sheriff's Association, there is bargaining unit 9 and bargaining unit 10. If I get the numbers wrong, I apologize, but there are 2 there. What we're saying is that both bargaining units will have 312 rights. Right now, only one does.
okay. Now, are they going to be in the same bargaining unit? That's my question to you. So will we put them all together, or will we still have 9 and 10, or whatever the number is?
There's a contract in place. Those bargaining units exist. They are part of the Oakland County Deputy Sheriff's together. Today, they are 2 separate bargaining units with, they have a contract.
Tomorrow.
We're not condoning, all this resolution does, let me just say, all this resolution does is extend 312 rights to all of our law enforcement personnel. And it has the support of the sheriff, it has the support of the bargaining units, it has the support of the administration. I'd add my support too.
Okay, I understand that, but you're not answering my question, okay? After they all become 312, will they stay in 2 units like they are now, or will they all be 1? I can't vote on this because I don't have any answer.
All right. I've tried to explain it as best I can.
I understand that you're letting the jail people go into 312 as well. I get that part.
That's
Now-
all this resolution does. And ensure that 312 is available to everyone in the command unit.
But will the next step be that we have 2 bargaining units and not 3? Because that's where it looks like we're headed.
That's
In
up
which
for-
case-
that's up for individual unions to negotiate. It's not, it's immaterial to this resolution.
Yeah, but don't you want to know what the future's going to hold once you vote on something like this?
I completely agree with you, Commissioner Taub, and I believe that all of our employees that work in law enforcement should have 312 bargaining rights. Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, maybe I could help out to move this along so for Commissioner Taub, is 312 has nothing to do with individual classifications. It has to do with 312. It it makes that where they're not, they go to a panel of arbitrators. What they give up is the right to strike if they want to, right? So this is all it does. It gives them that panel if there's an issue. It has nothing to do with classifications. The classifications comes in, each classification is whatever bargaining unit votes on it. It doesn't matter if we have one bargaining unit or 15 bargaining units. The pay will be negotiated when they're in negotiations. Has nothing to do with what we're voting on right now. This just gives the county protection and then gives the deputies protection that are not under 312. So I look at it as a win-win for all and win for the community.
Agreed. Any further discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Commissioner Taub. I don't know if might have been a little confusion, and I think Commissioner Miller addressed it pretty well. It doesn't matter if there's one or two bargaining units. It just gives each one of them the ability to go to 312. It doesn't, even if they became one bargaining unit, there's nothing that would equalize their pay. A deputy now doesn't get the same pay as a guy in the jail. Those are all negotiated classifications. So I think it just gives them the ability to go to 312, and I'm in favor of it.
All right. Any further discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Gingell.
Yep, I was just going to echo Commissioner Hoffman's statement and say that I think it's the right thing to do too. I'm going to support it. I just don't believe we needed a resolution to do it. I believe the administration and the leadership of the Sheriff's Department have the ability to do it without the board taking a stance or making a statement.
I agree with that too.
All right. Seeing no further discussion on the amendment, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the amendment, Commissioners Kowal,
Yes.
Boone,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Loops,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Spiz,
Commissioner Spiz, you're in mute.
I think he muted us.
Kind of frozen. You there?
He might have dropped out. I saw Spiz has left the meeting up in the corner a second ago. Maybe he got locked out.
All right. Continue the roll and we'll.
I saw that too.
Okay. Thank you. Taub? Taub?
Yes.
Whiteford?
Yes, and I ask you to hold the vote for Spiz if he comes back.
Woodward?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Gershenson?
Yes.
Gingell?
Yes. Yes.
Hoffman? Thank you. I got you. Hoffman?
Yes.
Jackson? Okay, thank you. I got a thumbs up from Jackson. Kokendorfer?
Yes.
And Spiz, do we know if I don't even see him on here anymore.
Just 1 second. Hold on.
Okay.
Ward, wait, well, let's hold, just hold. Mr. Ward, can you reach out to Spiz to see if he's having technical difficulties?
He's losing his Wi-Fi.
Will do.
He's losing his Wi-Fi.
Tell him to hotspot it. I always have a bad hotspot.
Okay.
Tell
Just
him to
wait,
hotspot.
be a little patient.
Way. But on the other hand,
Whiteford's raising his hand.
this is just my opinion, this isn't a UAV thing. It's
Oh,
part of it.
looks like Mr. Spiz is joining back in.
He's a healthcare professional, and I think.
Can I just say something about Wi-Fi?
He's going to try and call in.
Oh, he's back. Commissioner Spiz, on the amendment.
Yes, sorry, I was losing Wi-Fi, so I'm not
There
sure
we
if the
go.
windstorm's
That's
having an
like,
effect.
Viper, we'll come back to you. Let's finish the vote here.
Yep, 21 yeas, 0 nays, Mr. Chair.
A sufficient number voted in the affirmative of the amendment. The amendment is adopted. That brings us to the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion?
And it's
Commissioner Miller.
Julie in Wellesley, Massachusetts. What's your?
We're getting some background noise, guys. If you got TV in the background, please shut it off.
We got news from Massachusetts coming in.
Right.
My wife's home state, so she'll probably appreciate that. I just want to say, I said it before, it's the right thing to do. I want to thank the men and women in our corrections and the deputies. Thank them for coming in, for continuing their dedication during this time and all the time. What we're offering, what we're giving them is great, and I feel it should be more, but I know that we can't always give more. And just they have to go home to their families, regardless of if they catch it or not, and they have to come in every day with that on their shoulders, on top of everything else that they're hiding. So I just want to say bless them and thank them for all they're doing, and I'm glad we're moving in the right direction for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Any further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the resolution.
Yes. Commissioners Coon,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz. Did he freeze again? Biz,
I think so.
Looks like he froze again. Okay, hopefully he's coming back in, or he'll call in.
I will come back to him. Taub,
Yes.
Wipert,
Yes.
and I see it now, it says Biz is left. Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Angel,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
thumbs up from GA. Okay. Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
and do we know if Spiz is trying to get back on? Or he's calling?
Yes, he's coming back on.
And I will wait.
Commissioner Wiper, do you know about internet access in Oxford while we wait?
No, but I just want to tell all the commissioners that I've learned. I mean, I have the county computer on, I have the county tablet on, I have my personal tablet on, I have my phone on, and they are all grabbing my Wi-Fi. So I have found that if you turn your other devices off, your Wi-Fi gets strong. So that's just
Commissioner Spiz on the okay, wait, we're back to the voting.
Yes.
We're voting on the resolution. Madam Clerk?
Who's on the resolution?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
A sufficient number voting the affirmative, the resolution passes. Sorry, Mr. Commissioner Wiper, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to make sure that we got Spiz before we lost him again.
Yeah, it's not a Wi-Fi issue. It's the internet coming into the house, actually,
Oh.
from the windstorm. Keeps losing it.
Oh, right. All right, okay, it brings us the reports to special committees. There is none. It brings us the special order of business. Commissioner Taub?
I'd like to postpone for the next meeting. Thank you.
Gives notice to postpone miscellaneous resolution 19248 to the next meeting, which will be done. Brings us to unfinished business where there is none. Brings us to new and miscellaneous business. And there is some.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have a resolution titled Board of Commissioners Tri-Party Road Improvement Program Fiscal Year 2020 Appropriation, Charter Township of West Bloomfield, spreading of gravel and chloride on various roads, project number 5572, And I'd like to ask this resolution that be referred to the Oversight Committee.
Referred without objection. Commissioner Long. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Commissioner Long.
Nothing, I thought she was suspending it, but it's going to the committee, sorry.
Yep. Anybody else have the tri-party resolution? Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution titled Board of Commissioners Tri-Party Road Improvement Program Fiscal Year 2020 Appropriation Charter Township of Waterford Resurfacing of Andersonville Road Project Number 55711. Mr. Chair, I ask that that be referred to the Emergency Operations and Oversight Committee.
Referred without objection. Commissioner Taub.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution titled Board of Commissioners Tri-Party Road Improvement Program Fiscal Year 2020 Appropriation, Charter Township of Bloomfield, resurfacing various roads, project number 55662. Mr. Chair, I'd like to send this to the Special Super Duper Committee for adoption.
Referred to the Emergency Operation Committee without objection. Any Commissioner Hoffman, I think you have a resolution. Commissioner Hoffman, you're muted. You're muted, Commissioner Hoffman.
Good idea.
There we go.
Thank you. I have a tri-party road improvement project for 2020 for the beautiful community of Highland Township to install gravel and chloride on various roads. Refer to the Emergency and Oversight Committee, please.
Referred without objection. Commissioner,
Thank you.
Commissioner Spiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also have a tri-party road improvement program for the Township of Addison, spreading of gravel and chloride on various roads, project number 55692. Refer to EOO, please.
Okay, referred without objection. Commissioner McGilvery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a miscellaneous resolution recognizing May 15th, 2020 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 10th through the 16th as National Police Week. I would refer to the Emergency Operations Committee.
Referred without objection. All right. Commissioner Ginjal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a resolution that I'd like to introduce regarding a COVID-19 transition plan to reopen the economy in Oakland County and the state of Michigan. And I actually would like to request that we suspend the rules.
Motion moved by Commissioner
I'll
Ginjal.
support that.
Supported by, Commissioner Ginjal moves to suspend the rules, supported by Commissioner Weipert. Is there discussion? I guess I'll give some discussion and points is that, in my opinion, that this resolution's premature. I think we can send it to the committee process to be taken up. We've got another item we have to take up after this, and so I will not be voting to suspend the rules at this time.
I thought it was a non-debatable motion, isn't it?
It's debatable, as long as you speak to the suspension and not the merits of the resolution. Commissioner Ginjal on suspending the rules.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it is timely in nature, and I think part of the tenet of this resolution is that it allows us to be proactive and to start planning on how to come out of this pandemic that we're in. When we went into it, we were very reactive, and we acted urgently because we had to, but we reacted to many, many things. And generally, when you're reacting and you look back, had you had time to plan and think and strategize, you might have made different decisions and better decisions. So I believe it's very timely in nature that we address it this evening.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion on suspension of the rules, not the merits of the issue? Commissioner Hoffman.
No, I'd rather talk about the merits of the.
Okay, well, we'll take the vote and then we'll go. From there. All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, on suspending the rules, please call the roll.
On suspension of the rules, Commissioners Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
No.
Markham,
No.
McGilvray,
No.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Powell,
No.
Quarles,
No.
Biz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Whitebird,
Yes.
Woodward,
No.
Zach,
No.
Gershenson,
No.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson. Jackson's giving me a thumbs
No.
down. Thank you. Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Kuhn.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 10 yeas, 11 nays.
An insufficient number voting in the affirmative. The motion to suspend the rules is denied. Would you like to refer that to committee, Commissioner Gingell?
I would like to refer that to the EO committee, Mr. Chair.
Referred without objection. Next up. What page is the new
I believe
appropriation?
Commissioner, sorry, Chair, I believe Commissioner McGilvray has another telecommuter week resolution, if I'm not mistaken, that he would like to introduce.
Commissioner McGilvray. You have to unmute yourself, Gary. Did Gary hang up?
I did not.
Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. Oh, okay. I just thought the screen moved. Okay. So you have another resolution.
Yes, I don't have it here in front of me, but I would ask that it go to the EO committee.
Oh, EO committee up, referred without objection, the recognized telecommuter week. Where's the resolution on the appropriation? What page? Right there. Got it. Never mind. Found it. It's on page 94. Moved by Commissioner Gershenson. Seconded by Commissioner Zach. This is a resolution to further emergency funding for coronavirus pandemic. Commissioner Gershenson, seconded by Commissioner Zach, to suspend the rules. Any discussion on suspending the rules? All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, seeing that there's some dissension, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll on suspending the rules?
On suspension of the rules, Commissioner Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
No.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
Cobb,
No.
Whitebird,
No.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
No.
Jackson,
Yes. Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 17 yeas, 4 nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative to suspend the rules. The main motion's before us. Moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Jackson, to adopt the resolution. Is there any discussion? This is the resolution to appropriate an additional $10 million to support Oakland County's response to the pandemic. Any further discussion? Commissioner Taub.
You know, I'm really overwhelmed that most people do not, the majority does not want to plan anything out, that the majority is okay with not supplying masks to the people who are coming to work other than the sheriff's deputies in the jail. And thirdly, that nobody has mentioned at all the fact that we are using taxpayers' dollars. We have 1 million plus people, 1.2 million, maybe 1.3 million people in this county. They're paying the freight for all of this, okay? And no one has even offered to test anybody except for on request. I think we can do better than that, much better. So I'm going to suggest that somebody put their heads together and make some kind of decision that we take care of the constituency and get as many tests out there as we possibly can, as soon as we can, whenever they're available. Okay, that's my suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I got Commissioner Miller, followed by Commissioner Kokendorfer.
Thank you, Chair. I can tell you for a fact that I know the elections department has masks as of today. So there are people that have them, as well as I understand there's an issue about spending money, but we're spending money to protect our residents, the residents that invested in our county. So that's what I see is it's for us to give back to them to make sure they're safe. So we're not just giving this to another county, we're giving this to people that live in this county to protect them. That's why we're doing this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Kokendorfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move and make a motion.
Certainly.
The motion, it is in your packet. It's page 103. I believe it's the second to last page. It would reduce the 10 million to 5 million. If I could, if there's a second, I'll speak to it.
Motion by Commissioner Kokendorfer to introduce the amendment. It's on page 103 to reduce $10 million to $5 million. There's a second. Commissioner Hoffman seconds the amendment. Commissioner Kokendorfer, on your amendment.
Thank you very much. I know that everybody at this meeting believes that we need to do everything that we can and do it urgently to make sure that residents have what they need during this pandemic. But that also means that what we do needs to have a rational basis, and the appropriations have to have a rational basis. And we just heard earlier that EOC had recommended a list of items that are needed. And when you look at the burn rate of those items, it takes significantly less than $10 million. It takes even less than $5 million to get us through April 30th, the extended state of emergency. And I think that we need to always keep in mind that this board can always appropriate more. And in fact, if there's an emergency that comes up and something's urgent, the chair can call this board. We can do it very quickly and appropriate more. And I am confident that every member of the board would vote to support more appropriations if there was a rational basis for it. And so $5 million, more than enough to get us to April 30th. We can assess at that time, appropriate more. And the counter, I think, is that, well, $10 million gives us more of a cushion. Well, that's true. But so does 15 million. So does 20 million. You can play that game all day, but there has to be a rhyme and a reason to what we're doing here. And I think there's a broader theme, and the theme is this, and the theme that showed up in a couple items during today's meeting. Every solution that we propose has to be tailored to the specific problem. And here, the problem that we're facing through at least to get to our next meeting, $5 million addresses that problem, and that's what I put on the table.
Thank you, Commissioner Kokendorfer. Next up, I've got Commissioner Hoffman on the amendment. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Chairman Woodward. You know, I'm really proud of the board, the way we've operated in the last few weeks on a bipartisan basis. None of us have been afraid to step up to the plate and spend what we think is necessary to fight this pandemic. By, doing this step by step, I think it's more prudent and responsible. And if we allocate $5 million, that'll actually get us probably in 3 weeks. And we'll have another meeting in the meantime. We'll see how the curve is flattening out. Maybe we won't need so much, but I just think it's more prudent to take smaller steps because we're spending a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman. Any further discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Zach.
So I listened to our Deputy County Exec, Sean Carlson, projecting out costs, which is over for the next month, going to Homeland Security and supplies. And they're already projecting over 5 million, roughly 6,700,000. And why I would rather give them the flexibility. They're not going to overspend. They happen to get a better deal. They see things. I want them to have the liquidity and the flexibility to move forward fast. And I think it's prudent for us to give them that with the $10 million and not limit it to 5.
Thank you, Commissioner Zach. Commissioner Long, raise your hand if you want to speak. Commissioner Long.
So on Commissioner Zach's point, Sean said if 6.7 million, so I divided that by the 30 days to get a month. And that would get a month with this 223,000 burn rate a day. So even at the 5 million will almost make them 3 weeks, like Commissioner Hoffman said. But there's no way it adds up to 10 million, even with what he predicted. And that was the burn rate going up to 223,000 a day. So I can't see where they may need the 10 million, but I prefer them to come back to the board for that, the rest of, the 3 point or the 5 million or the 3.3 million that they would need after the month. I'm hoping the pandemic will be done, but I think we all are. We don't know. There's great uncertainty to when we're going to be done, but I prefer to do it in increments of smaller amounts. And 5 million is not a small amount, but by any means. But I would prefer to have more the funding to come back to the board if they need more. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. Commissioner Markham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to say that I agree with Commissioner Zach. Excuse me. I think they need the flexibility. The last thing we want to do is be in a position where they need the funding and we have to get us all back together or wait for another meeting to reallocate another $1 million or $2 million. Let's give them the flexibility with the $10 million available, understanding that they're going to be accountable and have to tell us how they've spent every dollar anyway. I cannot support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else to speak to the amendment? So I mean, one comment that I want to add, and I understand that the thought process, motivation behind the amendment. I just think the fact that that Mr. Sean Carlson laid out $6.7 million of expenditures, and frankly, to another comment about testing. This is a question that I bring up regularly on briefing calls and other things. If we can buy more machines, if we can acquire more swabs, at this juncture, obviously within reason, but we need to spend what's necessary to make sure that we can get our testing capacity up, because frankly, we're not going to be able to get back to normal, whatever that is, as so far ago it seems, without increased testing capacity. And so I believe that we need to make these dollars available. Given the burn rate that's happened in just the last couple of weeks, I think the 10 million is appropriate, and that's why I'm not supporting this amendment at this time. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
On the Kokendorfer amendment, Commissioners Markham,
No.
McGilvray,
No.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Powell,
No.
Quarles,
No.
Biz,
Yes.
Chop,
Yes.
Weipert,
Yes.
Woodward,
No.
Zach,
No.
Gershenson,
No.
Angel,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
No. No.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 10 yeas, 11 nays.
An insufficient number voted in the affirmative, the amendment fails. Brings us back to the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? Commissioner Middleton. You're on mute. You gotta unmute yourself.
I have an amendment, I think it's on 103. I lost my page number.
103? Okay.
It's basically moving the number to 750,000, million, rather than the full 10 million.
All right, so
And-
Commissioner Middleton, just wait just a second. So it's actually on page 104 of our packet. So there, yep. So Commissioner Middleton moves. Is there a second for Commissioner Middleton's amendment? Seconded by Commissioner Spiz
For 7.5 million.
for 7.5 million. Commissioner Middleton.
Thank you. Adam gave a good response. There isn't that much money in the presentation that we had before the meeting or during the meeting. And we're going to have a meeting in 2 weeks. People won't have to gather together until that time. There's really no reason to give the full 10 million at this time. And I just didn't feel that I got all the answers to the questions that I asked during the presentation. And that 7.5 million will give them plenty of money to work with whatever they had budgeted for the next 2 weeks. And that we could do it at 750 and get an update. Hopefully it's a good update and we wouldn't have to go the other 2.5 million. But in 2 weeks, if the scene is developed the way they calculate, then we could give them the 2.5 million then. But we really don't have to give it to them at this time. Thank you.
I'm sorry, who seconded the motion?
Commissioner Spiz.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Wyford on the amendment. Commissioner Wyford.
Our deputy county executive asked for 6.7 million and said that would cover him for 28 days. This amendment is appropriate for $7.5 million. That will cover for 28 days and some. So I don't see any reason this isn't play money. You're talking millions and millions and millions. And so we're having another meeting in a couple weeks or less. We can have emergency meetings. There's no reason not that this is appropriate. 7.5 million. He said 6.7 something million will cover for 28 days. We got more meetings in between. This is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wyford. Commissioner Gingell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to reinforce Commissioner Wypert's point about this is more than what the Deputy County Executive asked for. Even though he had future needs as large line items, I didn't see like a detailed spending sheet by line item. And the reality is we just approved a county executive emergency extension through April 30th, which is 17 days. So the administration is going to be coming back here anyways in under 18 days in some form or fashion.
Thank you, Commissioner Gingell. Any further discussion? I'm just Commissioner Wyford for a second time.
And Deputy County Commissioner Carlson said he hopes he won't spend the 6.8 million. He's going to be conservative on it. So that why not be fiscally responsible and appropriate a little bit more, 7.5 million. There's lots of room there. I think that's appropriate.
Thank you, Commissioner Wyford. And just to speak to this is like, while I'm opposing this one for similar the same reasons before, the request from the administration was for the 10 million. So let me correct the record for that. The presentation outlined $6.7 million of expenses. There are also other things that haven't made it to that sheet because acquiring the purchase of swabs and testing equipment and other things has been very hard to get. And so I believe is completely responsible as we respond to this pandemic to give the administration the 10 million. The original resolution also lays out a requirement that all expenditures from this fund be made available to all of us weekly. And I think it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to be voting against this amendment. Any further comment on the resolution? I mean, on the amendment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the on the amendment.
On the Middleton amendment, Commissioners McGilvray,
No.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Powell,
No.
Quarles,
Commissioner Quarles?
Yes.
On the amendment, Commissioner Quarles?
Oh, on the amendment, no.
Yes,
Yes.
Cobb,
That's the answer only.
Yes.
Swiper,
Yes.
Woodward,
No.
Zach,
No.
Gershenson,
No.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
No.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Loops,
No.
Markham.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 10 yeas, 11 nays.
An insufficient number voting in the affirmative, the amendment fails. It brings us back to the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? That's seeing none. Oh, Commissioner Long, did you have any?
No, I'm sorry.
Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, on the resolution to appropriate an additional $10 million to address the pandemic, please call the roll.
Okay. On the resolution, Commissioners Middleton,
No.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
No.
Taub,
No.
Seibert,
No.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
No.
Hoffman,
No.
Jackson,
Yes. Yes.
Kokendorfer,
No.
Kowal,
No.
Kuhn,
No.
Long,
No.
Loops,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvery.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 11 yeas, 10 nays.
A sufficient number in the affirmative, the resolution passes. I think we have to go back to one little thing. It seems Telecommunication Week really wants their resolution. So Commissioner McGilvery?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've just found out that it's for the week of April 12th to the 18th. So I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules on that and just so we can vote on it tonight.
Moved by Commissioner McGilvery, supported by Commissioner Hoffman. Any further discussion on suspending the rules? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed to suspending the rules on Telecommunication Week, say nay. Seeing none, the rules are suspended. Moved by Commissioner McGilvery, seconded by Commissioner Miller to adopt the resolution. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the resolution, Commissioners Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Whitebird,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Okendorfer,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Moon,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Loops,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us to go back on that. Is there, Commissioner Gingell, do you have a resolution to introduce?
I was working on one, but I don't believe it was completed. I have a, I'll have to bring it to the next EOO meeting and introduce it there maybe.
Is this the one with the DTRF fund?
Yeah, was it completed in time for the packet?
It's in the packet.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure it got in there. There was some changes going on. So, Mr. Chair, yes, I would like to introduce a resolution regarding administration of DTRF surplus funds, and we'll refer it to the EOO committee.
Referred without objection.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I just doing one last quick thing to make sure I got everything. No further new business that I was aware of. Anybody else got anything? Okay, not seeing any. That will bring us to the end of our agenda for any announcements. Seeing none. We'll adjourn this meeting to April 29th, 2020 at 7 p.m. or at call of the chair. Thank you, everyone. Be safe out there.
Yeah, be